Good morning and a warm welcome to the dialogue. My name is Simapolo, and every Saturday we sit down to look at those stories that made headlines through the week, internalize those events and put them into context. Welcome to the show once again, wherever you're watching from, and we conclude another eventful week. We started off the week with the Tarehe Sita celebrations, and that is an annual anniversary to 42nd. It was the 42nd anniversary celebrations to commemorate the UPDF since 1981, and the national celebrations were in Greater Mbalala. And on that note, we congratulate the UPDF upon the achievements and what you have done to fulfill your mandate. And again, within this week in Parliament, the Select Committee probing the issues of alleged challenges and issues that the National Social Security Fund, of course, proceeding with their work in the committee, and crossing over again into politics. There were nominations for the by-election to fill the vacancy in Serere County, following the death of Honorable Patrick Okabe. Alliance for National Transformation the candidate Alice Alaso was nominated this week. The FDC also has Emmanuel Elatu in the race, already nominated. The NRM has a candidate in there, and there are several independents in there. But the highlight of that particular story is that the opposition National Unity Platform endorsed the ANT, or Alliance for National Transformation candidate Alice Alaso as their, of course, not their candidate, but they will throw their support behind the NT candidate Alice Alaso. And we wait also to see how that pans out. It is the 23rd of February when the people in the voters in Serere County will be going to polls to elect their member of parliament replacing the Honorable Patrick Okabe. And possibly, if we look at what is happening in the region, there have been protests in Goma. That is the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The protests have been going on for at least 5 days, and the residents are protesting what they call the inaction of the East African Standby Force, as well as the UN mission peacekeepers, for failing to contain the M23 rebels, who seem to be gaining ground every day. And I have looked at reports, possibly they could be inside Goma town. Or I don't know if it is a city anyway, but they could in any way possibly capture Goma very soon. And we can also come back and talk about the position taken by the Church of Uganda on matters concerning gay rights, and the head of the Church of Uganda, His Grace Stephen Kazimba Mugalu, Doctor, made a strong statement, issued a strong statement asserting the position of the Church of Uganda of that decision by the Church of England to bless the same-sex couples. And it is now clear that Church of Uganda may be headed to a split from the Church of England on matters of gay rights. But our main topic today will be looking at the issue of stock outs of medical supplies in hospitals, especially public health facilities in this country. It's a matter that has been also going on for the last 1.5 weeks. We have experienced a serious stock out of medical supplies in public health facilities. A matter came to Parliament, and the Minister for Health, Dr. Jennifer Cheng, presented a statement asserting that possibly it could be the delays to release funds from the Ministry of Finance, which could be the problem. But again, the Minister for Finance also made a rebuttal on the floor of Parliament that it didn't look good as the two ministers collided on the floor of Parliament. But the issue remains. There have been a persistent stock outs of medical supplies in public health facilities, and this puts the lives of Ugandans at risk. And we'll be looking at what could be the underlying causes of these stockouts, and possibly what could be the lasting solution to this particular problem. And finally, we'll also be looking at the UCE results which were released this week. Uganda Certificate of Education results were released this week for students who sat for their examinations last year, 2022, and from the results which were released, 46,667 students passed in first division, and 76,745 students passed in division 2. But again, we can also note that 15,756 students failed. 15,756 students failed, did not pass. They were ungraded. And 1,035 students' results were withheld due to exam malpractice, and that's another cause of concern. We'll be looking at generally the results and what it means to the whole education system and the development in this country, because education is the bedrock of development anywhere and everywhere. Of course, the panel is set to take on these topics. Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimile, Member of Parliament for Buyaga West, will be on the panel this morning. Richard Baguma, a communication specialist and an advocate for proper nutrition, will also be on the panel this evening. But again, we've been joined by our special guest this morning from the Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, also known as CEHAD. Peter Echeru is here in the studios, and I'll ask him to greet our viewers. Say something to our viewers before we kick off the show.
Thank you very much, and thank you Salt TV for hosting us. We bring you greetings from Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, the team that side. We are indeed privileged to be here.
Good. And briefly, what do you do at CEHAD?
At CEHAD, I coordinate advocacy. But as at institutional level, our area of focus is social justice in health. We want to have a situation where health is available to everybody who needs it, and that it shouldn't be based on your ability to procure it, okay? But it must be based on the question of rights, that as a person you're entitled to a right to life. And a number of international treaties point to that effect, and we are signatories to some of those treaties. So that's our area of focus as an institution.
Thank you so much. But Peter, before we go into the topics for today, I don't know if you can pick a story of the week. I've enumerated a number of stories that made headlines this week. I don't know if you can pick a particular story that you think made headline this week.
Given the kind of work that I do, for me the big story that we've seen this week is about the drug stockouts, and then the subsequent action by national medical stores and Ministry of Health to eventually begin the rollout and distribution of medicine. But why that is specifically important for me is that it is a topic that concerns so many people in this country. Unfortunately, so many of those people who are affected do not actually have opportunity to come and sit on a TV and complain. They cannot have access to, for example, the floor of parliament to go and raise their challenges. And so, while it affects so many people, it is not one of those things that go to the agenda. Because a lot of times, if you have access to platforms, that's when your issues eventually get addressed. And of course, we want to thank the media for having championed the conversation around drug shortages. And by the way, this has not just happened. This is just a culmination of us so many years of having drug stockouts in this country. And I think what got it more attention was that when it went to parliament and you saw a disagreement between members of cabinet on the floor of parliament, a typical case of troops moving without
uncoordinated
control,
movement,
uncoordinated troop movement, and I think that is what really gave it a lot of national prominence. But I can assure you, if you go to health facilities, if you go to communities, is when you get to know that there is a huge challenge. And you listen to people who are on ARVs and the challenges that they go through when they are not able to access their drugs.
Okay.
It's a story that is heartbreaking.
That is really heartbreaking, as you said. And viewers, I also must send condolences to our friend, our comrade. I mean the family of our comrade, Council Anthony Wameri. Council Anthony Wameri died in the US, and he has been the head of the legal department in the National Unity Platform political party, and he developed health issues, and he was flown to the US to seek for specialized treatment. He has been there for at least 4, 5, 6 months, and we received the news this week that he passed on. And on that particular note, we condole with the family of Brother Anthony Wameri. We condole with the National Unity Platform and the broader lawyers fraternity, and also we condole with the country at large. May his soul rest in peace anyway. And we will go straight to the issue about the drug stockouts in this country. And in your introductory remarks, you were affirming the magnitude of, and the consequences of this challenge, and it has been persistent. Briefly talk about the consequences of experiencing a stockout in this country.
So the stockout challenge is a common occurrence in our health system, and it has been happening for quite a while. It has happened for a long time, and it has consequences in the overall health system. It has consequences to individuals. It has consequences to families. It has consequences to our overall health system. We've had a lot of people who've just passed on simply because they could not get a government drug. And you see, a lot of times in Kampala, you see pharmacies everywhere. And so when you go to a public health facility, it's easy, and you don't find drugs in Kampala here, it's easy to go to a pharmacy and get drugs from a private pharmacy. And that is because the economic status of Kampala is fairly better. If you look at a number of poverty reports for this country, it shows you that the central region, the western region, have substantially managed to fight back poverty. But if you go to other parts of this country, where as little as 10,000 could be the highest someone can get in a whole month, then you understand why it is important for such a person to have a public health facility near them that is able to provide comprehensive health care. Because the moment you're not able to get that health care from that public facility, then it means you are a step away from actually losing your life. And so it is important that we put emphasis in ensuring that those health facilities have access to drugs. So it is important to look at most of the communities where we come from, outside of Kampala, where there is no private pharmacy. Even if it is there, very many people do not have access to this facility. And so, because someone can't get drugs, one, they will certainly lose a life.
Yeah, true.
Then the other one is that in the case of some people, when they see that we have gotten drugs this time, what they start doing is to attempt to ration drugs. That if a doctor said you will take it twice a day, this medicine twice a day, what eventually starts happening is that you start taking it maybe once a day, so that you're able to take it more and save your drugs. And it actually gets worse with those who are on terminal treatment, those who have to take drugs over a long period. Like for example, if you're on ARVs and you start attempting to do that. So what happens is that when you start rationing drugs, it builds resistance. And eventually, you'll notice that we need to change the drugs. You've seen we've changed our regimen for example, malaria over time. These are things that happen when we have challenges of drug rationing. You attempt to ration drugs because you're trying to save the cost of drugs, of going to a private facility to get drugs. So that costs a country in as far as it now requires you to change drugs, because now the drug you've been rationing has developed resistance. It cannot again solve your medical problem, so you need to change that. If you look at HIV, for example, you've seen now we are on third line treatment, and it is because people became resistant to first line, second line, and the more lines you go to, the more expensive it is. So that means if you're now on third line treatment for HIV, for example, you'll need more than double the amount of money that someone is on the first line of treatment. The higher you go, the more expensive it becomes. And so for a country that is investing in treating, for example, people who are living with HIV, it is, you notice that the cost itself goes up. Then secondly, because people are not taking their ARVs as they should be taking them, their viral load increases. Yeah, because they are now not taking medicine as they ought to be taking. The viral load increases. And you know, when viral load increases, that also means that your chances of infecting another person also increases. So someone who is taking their ARVs consistently and religiously drops down their viral load. That means that even their chance to pass it to the next person, either to a child or to a sexual partner, also reduces. So now, because people are not able to access their medicines, they are not able to, their viral load goes up, and so we have increasing cases of infections that eventually happen.
Whenever we experience a stock out of medical supplies in this country, the lives are at risk.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
not only lives that are at risk, but even people may die silently.
Absolutely. And the problem is that most of these cases are never reported in the media, and we never get to know them. You remember during COVID, when senior people would die of COVID, it would be all over news. But because we are having people who are silently dying in the community, people who are not newsworthy, in the speak of people who handle media, they're just dying, and no one pays attention to what exactly is happening. And like I said, this matter came a lot to the fore because of the work of the media in specific areas, and then the spat that we had in Parliament. But if it was not for that, this stockout would have gone away just like
Really?
other stockouts have gone out. I can tell you that for most health center tools, when they deliver drugs, in the next 2-3 weeks, they will not the drugs will be finished.
So we experience these shortages more often.
Yes, it is actually all the time. So most of them receive drugs after 3 months or 2 months, but within 2 weeks of delivery of drugs for most health facilities, already the drugs are not there. And the reason is very simple. National medical stores and Ministry of Health, every year as a planning tool, they do what is called a quantification and analysis of the drug needs that we need as a country. And if you look at their reports, they will tell you that the health center tools are only getting 38% of the drugs that they need.
38%?
Only 38%.
That
so
is
there is a gap
below,
of 62% of the drugs. And that perfectly explains why within 2 weeks, the drugs are done.
So the supplies are low.
The supplies are low.
And the demand is high.
The demand is extremely high. Now, when we established health center tools, the idea was that a health center tool was going to serve 5,000 people. Unfortunately, as we speak, some health center tools are serving almost 30,000 people.
So are you saying it's not about the delay to release the funds as the Honorable Minister alleged that on the floor of Parliament, or stated on the floor of Parliament? It's also about the amount that is released for to procure the drugs.
So the whole thing is it's a mix of challenges. This specific one, why even the little medicine could not go, was because of the delay in releasing drugs. And I'll tell you how the system works. NMS has, when government passed the Public Finance Management Act, we created a single treasury account where all resources go. And that money lives there to go now to accounting institutions, to votes. So if you look at votes, NMS is a vote. So the money leaves the central account to go to NMS. Now, the funny thing with that system is that at the close of June, the system shuts down.
Okay.
So that means that national medical stores, which is supposed to consistently supply drugs, cannot send the drugs. And that's just a small problem. Okay. Because I think it is an operational challenge that can be agreed between Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Health. And Ministry of Finance said, we have discussed this with the national medical stores, that you can have what is called a framework contract. Okay. So that suppliers can continue supplying even when you don't have cash. Because at 30th, all government institutions cannot have money because the system will close. Even if you have some money in your account, you cannot withdraw it. It is reverting back to central, to the treasury.
Yeah, true.
So that happens it happens for every accounting institution. But unlike other institutions, national medical stores must continue to deliver drugs. Uganda is a huge country. So the trucks must keep moving and delivering drugs through and through. So I think that is an operational issue.
Okay,
which needs to be.
It's an operational issue, you say. And let me bring in Richard Baguma, and I'm lucky that Richard has been into health. First health reporting and then to health advocacy about health issues and all that. Speak to our viewers, and you're most welcome to the program, Richard.
Thank you, Prince Apollo. Like I always say, God is very powerful, God is very gracious. All our transgressions, we still come back here every Saturday. And we thank you, the viewers who follow us every weekend, and we greet you. I would also like to say hello to you, Apollo, and my colleague here from the people who push agendas and sometimes become controversial. We have been partnering, as you know, on many issues. Yeah. we haven't been vocal alongside them on this drug thing. Yeah.
You've had his submission, and he says it's not a one-off. It has been happening over time. Stockouts of medical supplies, especially in public health facilities. What do you make of that, and what do you think could be the underlying causes of drug stockouts?
No, I think he made a good submission. I think I am past the half a century line in age. There is not a time that I remember that there has not been some shortage of drugs of this or that, or lack of it. Because see, for me, it's the absence of a drug that you need when you are at the health center. For the next probably 2 days or something, you can't get that drug at the health center. And so it's not new for any patient in this country to say that you have been told to go and look for this drug outside the health center where you are being treated. I don't think it's new for any age group. So yes, in that sense, stockouts are a permanent.
It has become normal.
It's a permanent. It's like death. Death has never become normal, but death is a factor of life. There is always death where there is life. But so some of the things don't normalize because they happen all the time. They still are difficult. So we have had shortages all the time. Now, for me, there are two types. There is where you have the permanent stockout, where half of the drugs you need at the public health unit are not there anyway, at any time. So you have to just go and look for them in private. And I think one of the estimates, if I remember correctly, by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, is that the highest out-of-pocket expenditure for any household in Uganda is on medicine.
Medication.
Yeah, it's on medication. So it's very clear, the interrelation. Now, there is then this one that has made us talking, which last time I said, for me, it's created. It's created, in my view, and it's about contestation on who takes which amount of money. This is just about money.
It's artificial.
Yeah, for me, this is created. It's about money, who controls which budget and money, who makes procurement decisions, who makes spending decisions, ultimate spending decisions on the billions. Because you see, the drugs business is in billions. No question about it.
It's a lucrative
Yes, there are two
business.
things. One very wealthy businessman in this country, I was asking him, I said, you are in this area of food and drink and wine. If you are not in there, where would you go? I said the second one is drugs. He said there are two things that make people vulnerable, very, very vulnerable. The first one is food, the next one is drugs.
Yeah,
they will spend without question, they will all contribute. So it's a very lucrative area. So sometimes this, and because, my colleague is very diplomatic and says, it's administrative, it's operational. It can be done. No. People are just fighting over budgets, who must be in charge of which huge spending power, and therefore which cuts and which commissions. These are the things really that affect us. We come and fear to say the AMO. People say, bring evidence. If you see that trucks must be moving, but June closes. Is it new that the EFMS, whatever you call it, it will close?
The system, the
Did
financial
we know? Is it the first year that
system.
it is closing this year? How come the other year we didn't have the same problem? The trucks kept moving.
But Richard, if
is it only NMS that has trucks? The UPDF doesn't have trucks. The police doesn't have trucks. How come they haven't stopped? Aren't they all using the same financial management system?
Yeah.
So this hiding behind technicalities because you want to control, you are controlling a huge budget already, getting your kickbacks. You want to control it. It doesn't matter if people die. This is in my view, what we are dealing with.
and you raised a very important issue about how the biggest chunk of the income for the local people goes directly to servicing their health needs. And that also speaks about how now people will every time remain in poverty. I mean, if their biggest chunk of their income is going to servicing health needs, which are not available in public health facilities.
Yeah, but that's why we have been crying together with Sehud and all the others. What's the problem as implementing the national health insurance
Yeah,
scheme.
true.
What's the problem? Why does the law come, you reject it, we fight off for years for the national health insurance scheme? It is being implemented. You go, what do you call it? This going to see what happens in other countries.
Benchmarking.
Oh, please give me it. Oh, really? Why don't we do
We
this?
don't even
We
need
must.
benchmark.
I said that it was the same. There are two things that we tell lies about ourselves, and we are told lies about by our leaders. One, that we can freely, totally finance the education of our children. We can't. We don't have the resources as a country. We are a poor, broke country, but we are also a corrupt and thieving country, and we cannot do that for health either. So you can't say that you're going to supply all the drugs. They are the rapid growth of the population in this country. We have among the highest fertility rates in this country. They are changing disease patterns. Who knew that COVID was going to come? And immediately after COVID, Ebola comes. It disrupts completely even the planning for the drugs distribution and what. But then the essential things must continue. You must immunize, vaccinate for COVID. But you must also continue vaccinating for HPV and for whatever you call cholera and whatever it is you are. So these disruptions, because the budgets are not elastic. So there are all these. But the artificial crisis shortages, which are about controlling budgets and cuts and commissions, for me, that's really what makes me mad.
Peter, you can chip in.
I want to interject in there about the question of the household expenditure and what it means for development of this country. Health is a unique area, and I have argued elsewhere and I'll argue here again that if we do not fix the healthcare system, all these things we are talking about, improving household incomes, will not work. And the reason is simple, that it is in our nature as human beings to self-preserve. You will give me your cow, your goats under parish development model. You will give me whatever business we have. But the moment there is a sick person in the home, that person will not be allowed to die. We will dispose whatever we have to make sure that this person goes to gets adequate health care. If we had a functioning public health system, a person would walk into a public health facility and get treatment.
Yeah, true.
But now we start calling everybody. You've received calls from the village. They will call all relatives asking for contribution for treatment of a patient. And I can assure you,
we even see fundraising drives on social media and everywhere. Whenever I mean, a lucky one. Those are lucky ones.
Yes.
When lucky ones get issues, get health issues.
What happens now is that you actually sending poverty to all the other members whom you're asking, please help us, please help us. But then these government projects will not yield result. And I can tell you that if you go to private health facilities in this country, you'll be shocked to see people who look directly like they are in abject poverty accessing public health, accessing health facilities from a private health facility instead of accessing it from a public health facility. And I agree with him that as a country we cannot pretend. And I hear the president speak a lot about parents should not contribute to education. And I also think he thinks that the same should happen for health. We need to reach a point where as a country we are able to find how we as individuals make collective contribution towards health through what he says, health insurance. And it is working elsewhere. If you look at Rwanda has developed a very functional health insurance scheme for health. Yes. And if you look at their health indicators and compare them with Uganda, you see the difference.
But what's wrong with what went wrong here? And
the problem with us is that we want to politicize service delivery. And until we stop politicizing service delivery, if you've noticed, the president has rejected any bill that relates to health. Parliament passed the Public Health Amendment Bill. Remember, the Public Health Amendment Bill is one of 1930. I mean,
Is it just a year or 2 years
no,
ago?
the Public Health Act.
Amendment Act.
No, the Act itself, the initial Act, is a law of 1932.
Yeah, but a bill,
Now,
an amendment bill was passed.
Yes, it was passed last year by Parliament. It was sent to the President for his signature. He rejected it. So he sent us back to 1932. Parliament passed the National Health Insurance Scheme bill. They sent it to him.
Returned
He rejected it, brought it back. So all the things, until we take concrete actions and accept that in health, we must find how we pool our resources together also as individuals and contribute towards the public purse. We will not be able to have adequate resources. And the same should apply for education. That to say that a UPE school should not charge any other money for the school to run. You cannot have a UPE school running on a capitation grant of 10,000 shillings per child per year. Where will you manage a child?
Okay, Richard, he raised also an issue about now this matter about health will also affect other development programs like PDM. Nobody will keep a goat or a heifer when a person is dying, when a family member is dying. I don't know if you can expound and make a contribution.
I think even in all our local languages, there are sayings that point to health is wealth.
Yeah, true.
I think in English, but all in our other languages. Obulamu, it's all in all our local languages. We have this one. So this should be a no-brainer. This should be, and for me, the people who are in positions of responsibility and who are duty bearers know this. You can't go to educate them about this. They know. So that's for me one thing. The second thing is that the government's own statistics, it's UBOS. It's the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, keeps every year through all mechanisms of surveys they do through the 5-year, they show this is the cost to households of healthcare, and so if you spend 40+% of a household's income on healthcare, surely what are you remaining with for wealth creation? So it's what can I say? It's the continuing cycle of poverty that we perpetuate. But also for me, when you do a collective effort, and the high net worth individuals, the middle net worth individuals contribute a little bit more to the kitty. The low net worth individuals collect also within their means. But this is available. By the way, we even forget that the health insurance scheme by law is there in Kenya. You are supposed, I think, to contribute 500 shillings or something. The middle income and the upper income will not go anywhere to the public health facilities. But it's not different from they will not travel by public means. It's not different that their children will not go to public schools. That's not the one. Those are not the ones we are talking about. And those are not the majority anyhow. Okay. But let there be these contributions so that somebody has the option to go. But that the government also has a higher pool of money because it helps with its negotiations with manufacturers and suppliers, because when you are buying in bulk, you get cheaper. But also the different logistics, including a little bit better pay for the health worker. We are already contributing anyway by going to the private pharmacies and all these guys. Now, that also means that when the public institutions are purchasing, they are distributing, we can then demand focus on quality. What is it we are purchasing? What is it? So you can see, because you can have drugs. I mean, there is a budget every year for any drug manufacturer or distributor for destroying.
Yeah, actually that was my concern.
That one is there, is part of the business. But it's not only drugs that expire. No, bread expires, biscuits expire, whatever product is on the market, on serious markets, everything expires. So that's part of the business. What we should be questioning is the percentage of expiry, if it is within the normal and accepted. Yes. But so...
And so what type of drugs do re-expire?
Yes.
Because I think it also matters.
Oh, yeah, because it means our forecasting was challenged. Yeah, it means it was challenged. Stockouts, yes, if you have a spike in malaria, which you are not foreseen, because maybe because of climate change, there was increase in rain, but some of the things, but we must also, Apollo, and this is what I talk about, that while we put duty bearing on government, we must also put duty bearing on ourselves. I told you my experience with Mlago Hospital and the supplies of blood and theater, surgical space, because of the multiple daily border accidents. That they had to postpone scheduled surgeries. They ran out of blood because the borders are coming. The riders and they are in emergency situations. So the surgeons are putting off all the other surgeries.
Very busy.
And have to deal with this. So really, we also must look at our behavioral patterns and deal with it in order to deburden the health system.
Richard, when we talk about the National Health Insurance Scheme, it's closely related to cost sharing, which we had actually in our health centers, but it was later withdrawn. And now around this time, should we start thinking about that system of cost sharing, or what? Because we don't know even when the national insurance scheme will be allowed to come to, into practice, to be brought into the system.
No, I think it will also be a lie to say we are introducing cost sharing. No, cost sharing is already existing.
Oh.
Yeah. We cost share all the time. That's why we spend, I don't 40-something% of our money on health.
But the other time it was somehow
so that's what I'm
that's
what I'm coming to. We should formalize and institutionalize cost sharing because it's already happening. So to say that we are introducing it is being dishonest. And the way that for us we are advocating for is through the health insurance initiative, that we should have a national health insurance regulated by law. The parameters are very clear. Our responsibilities and obligations, we know them. Whoever the players, we know. All of us, we know each other's obligations, and we hold each other accountable. But because you see, for short-term political reasons, even good initiatives are abolished.
Actually die.
Yeah, they die. So and that's what he was talking about, politicizing service delivery. Yes, of course, service delivery is also about politics. But we vulgarize it when we are dishonest and untruthful about it. And we drag the whole population along, and they pay the price.
I like the idea of the National Health Insurance Scheme because it also gives the low-income earner an opportunity to share the services. For these people who have money to spend or to give out something that will help these low-income earners. And Peter, as we conclude in around 10 minutes, you this week filed a petition in the High Court, and the petition is seeking pushing to have the Attorney General and the National Medical Stores held liable for not providing these essential drugs. Do you think this will change anything anyway? Because we've heard from Baguma's submission that
as an institution,
it could be deliberate in any way.
As our institution, we've always looked at legislation as not just as an end in itself, not thinking that it will solve the problem on its own. It is just one of those approaches that we use to facilitate our other engagement with government. And that's why even when we saw an institution, we still engage it. We still believe that it is important. But what is key is that the courts must pronounce themselves on obligations of some of these states, of some of these agencies, and clearly state that you have actually not done what you're supposed to have done.
Okay.
The National Medical Stores, the law that creates it is very clear on what it is supposed to do. Part of the things that's supposed to do is to procure and distribute. It is supposed to advise government on matters that relate to drugs and those kind of related matters. So the judgment, the case is basically asking court to pronounce itself on have they done their part, but also to sustain focus on this big conversation on drugs, because we think that it is not being given the attention it deserves. We actually thought that it would have been important for Parliament, instead of sending this conversation to the Prime Minister to resolve, to inquire further into what exactly is the cause of these drug stockouts. Because there are many. There are supply chain managements.
You think they don't know?
A lot of times, because a lot of our decision makers actually are stuck in the privileges of power. They actually never get to know a lot of things that happen. Someone was shocked to go to Uganda Cancer Institute and find people sleeping outside. This is what you'd think is common knowledge to everybody.
Yeah.
But people are so trapped into the cushions of power that we never even,
Peter,
whether it is in health,
Peter, we have
education.
political leaders who have voted from the grassroots, and they actually visit these locals and their home constituencies almost every weekend. They don't know that the drugs are not in these public health facilities.
It's strange, but it is that's why it is important that these conversations take center stage, and it also goes up to their constituencies, so that the voters and the people who are elected at least get into get to have this conversation about what exactly do we need to do. If, for example, when Parliament was discussing this and discussing about the fights between the different entities of government, and yet they know that as an institution they are not actually providing adequate resources for procurement of drugs. Like I showed you how there are those challenges. If you look at the supply chain system that we have, it has terrible challenges. That's why he says you'll go to one district, you'll find that one health facility, two in the same district, has no drugs. You move to another health center, two within the same district, and it has expired drugs of the same that the other one is saying we don't have. That is a supply chain challenge.
Really?
And you know, studies have been done to demonstrate that actually we can resolve this. Because currently the system we are running is that for health center 4 going up, they use the pull system. That they order what they need based on the needs they have.
Yes.
But now when you go to health center 2, 3, they rely on a modified pull, kind of pull and push. They use what is called a district kit. Money is sent to the district, and then the district supplies the medicine to health center 2s. They say, okay, these are health center 2s. They'll supply them the same amount of drugs. But you know that the truth is that not all health center 2s serve the same number of people.
Yeah, true.
And also within the districts, there are unique challenges in health facilities, or in their coverage areas. You may find one area has more malaria than others.
Yeah, true.
They're within one district.
So you say the distribution chain is not aligned with the demographies in particular. So now for
you, you're just going to say these are health center 2s, you give them medicine. So if you find districts where the DHO and their team are active, they sometimes do a re-sharing based on the statistics.
The requisitions come from down to National Medical Stores.
That is largely from Health Center 4. Now substantially for Health Center 3 and 2, they send it to the district. Then the district will say, okay, these are Health Center 3s. They said you will have this amount of drugs. These are health center tools. You have the same
Richard,
amount of drugs.
we are running out of time, but it's very, very important to get these issues out and loud. He talked about one place or one health facility having drugs expiring and another one in dire shortage of drugs. How can that be worked out in just 3 minutes before we go for a break?
No, but you see,
because this is different. The drugs are there,
yes,
but they are not equally distributed or appropriately distributed. I think that is different from the shortages from the store.
Yeah, but you see, if the drugs are here and there is a shortage at the other side, the drugs here are expiring, it speaks to the possibility of resolving the shortage if the system was responsive. But also think about this. And that's what you were saying, that you see it's a cycle. You can't isolate one and leave the other. What are the planning skills at the district? What are the procurement professional? Who is the procurement professional?
We have district medical officers, I think.
Yeah, but is their job planning and procurement?
Okay.
They are medical doctors. Planning and procurement is not.
DMOs.
Yeah, planning and procurement is not part of their skill sets. So you see, when you are a doctor, you go from a clinic to an administrative office immediately, and you're supposed to start being a financial manager. You are responding to the political pressures of every politician is demanding this and that. You are supposed to become a planner and a procurement specialist, and how is that going to happen? So if you have all these health center 2s and 3s in your area, and there is a demand that by this time you should be like this, and you have so many staff very thin on the ground, what do? You will bundle. You have the money, you have to do these things by deadline, and you have to bundle. So that absence also of the planning and skill sets at that level, we must look at it, and therefore it affects the distribution. 2, we have also seen that, for example, storage capability at the health center too is unavailable. Drug storage is not there. So it's and we have seen these photos, it's you guys in the media who bring them, that where they are keeping the drugs for fumigating is where they keep the drugs for the people, is where they keep the foodstuffs, is where they keep, because that's their little room store that they have. So you have all these compounded issues that you must deal with. However, for me, at the national level, is the artificial shortages that must be dealt with.
You called them.
Those ones surely must be dealt with.
Viewers, it is the dialogue, and we'll be going for a short break. When we return, we'll be also looking at other matters to do. Actually, they are closely related to do with UCE results, which were released this week. But this issue about shortages of medical supplies is really, really important. It is heartbreaking for a person who is in dire need of a health service, and he or she walks into a health facility and he or she is told there are no drugs. Really heartbreaking. And they have to go to seek these services from private health facilities where we know that these services are very expensive. I don't know how we can work it out. Let's go for a break, but when we return, more issues to talk about. Honorable
It's okay to predict that I'm going to be honorable.
We expect him here, and Honorable Barnabas. Honorable Baguma Richard is also in the studios, but we also have Peter Icheru from Center for Health and Human Rights and Development, CEHAD, in the studios. So let's go for a break. We'll return after a short while. Welcome from the break. My name is Simapolo, and this is the dialogue. We are looking at matters of national importance, looking at the persistent stock outs of medical supplies in this country, issue or a case that has very far-reaching implications to the lives of Ugandans. especially those vulnerable groups, people who need daily supply of drugs and all that. Actually, civil society organization, Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, petitioned the High Court this week, and they are seeking to hold government, more particularly the Attorney General and the National Medical Stores, liable for failure to ensure timely distribution and delivery of those essential health medical services. And
Apollo, I wanted to remind you.
You can remind me.
Yes. You see, I have been talking about the artificialness of these crises.
The crisis.
Yes.
Crisis.
That look, we've been having the same institutions, probably lower budgets, procuring drugs, using the same financial system. How come at this time what was Pechiria at this time? And you see, Peter talked about Parliament returning the problem to the executive. Yes, it came to Parliament, and Parliament returned it to the executive.
Yes. And the ministers crashed on the floor.
No, because the crashing was already existent. That's where we were having this. And it's on control, in my view, and I insist, of the multiple billions that go into the drugs purchases and distribution. This is a lot of money, and there is a fight on who should control it. Money comes from agencies. Money comes from the USAID and the US government. Money comes from funds like PEFA. Who controls that money is where the quarrel was. Now, and that's why I wanted to remind you, if you remember the crisis we had of cancer drugs, and the position of the Cancer Institute then, and awaiting for the president's intervention. Now, Apollo, you are a journalist. I would like you to go back, talk to the people at the Cancer Institute, ask them, you are still getting the same budgets within the same line. What changed in the amount of drugs and the ease with which you have your drugs? You are going to bring back that story. Come and challenge me. Okay. I can tell you, you are going to be shocked. The increase in the amount of drugs that they have now that they are doing their procurement, but also the ease with which to administer these things when they need them. And for me, that is the elephant in the room that we generally don't deal with. And we scatter around the issues. We must talk about the greed and the thieving and the cost of lives that we have because of that.
So Richard, are you insinuating that possibly what you call greed could be the roadblock in the road to introduce a national health insurance scheme?
Yeah, because we have been advocating for the national health insurance scheme. I remember, I think it's at the end of the last Parliament. Parliament just stood its ground. Despite all attempts by the executive to divert them, they stood their ground and passed
the national health insurance.
It had been, I think it had been in the works for I don't know how many years.
20 plus, I guess.
Absolutely, because for me, I have been advocating at doing all the kind of media work, being called by all these organizations. We do these advocacy strategies. His Excellency the President did not assent to it. Now I heard that it is back in cabinet or something.
Yeah. It's back at Health Ministry.
Now, so who is the player in the insurance sector that for them profit is such that we can continue dying, the Ugandans here, and they must make profit and kill? This thing is not even a threat, by the way, to the insurance sector, because it is working in our neighboring countries to the southwest and to the east. It is there, but they have more vibrant insurance companies than we have here.
Related to what is happening in the education sector, Richard, do you also agree with this school of thought that possibly it is because the people in big offices do not suffer the brunt of these stockouts? Could it be one of the reasons?
Let me give you my own example. I come from Mbarara. I don't know. I have spent Honorable Tinkasimbre will tell me how many years spent if he's not going because of political reason. I've spent I don't know how many years without going by bus.
Oh, okay, traveling by bus.
To Mbale. Now, if you are telling me about the challenges of the bus park, and I'm supposed to be a decision maker to streamline the bus
Policy
park,
maker there.
it is unlikely that I will appreciate
Yeah.
the challenge of the people who go through the bus park who are surrounding
Okay,
areas.
I now get the answer. Let me welcome Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire, Member of Parliament for Buyaga West. And Honorable, you're most welcome. We are talking about a very, very sensitive matter around drug stockouts, where the country has experienced stockout of medical supplies in this country. There was a clash on the floor of Parliament. I hope you followed. And this week, an NGO even ran to court seeking court to pronounce itself and hold the government liable for untimely distribution and delivery of medical supplies to its citizens.
Good morning to my good friend Apple, our host, and my namesake, and our new panelist for today. I'm sorry I gave you 1 hour.
It's okay. It's okay.
And I will do what is possible to raise issues that are critical to our people. To our viewers from Buyaga West, they have been waiting because they are tuned in. Tuned in on KBS and also on...
The year has started. You promised me to go to Buyaga. You and Apple, I'm still waiting. For me, I'm ready.
We'll go.
The other people that who told me that they watch me on Salt TV is when I went to Rakai. Rakai to celebrate. They invited me to speak on the late Liberation Day celebrations for NRM in a place called Byakabanda, Ichibale, in Rakai district, and they said they view this program.
That's very good.
So those viewing from Rakai, blessings, and we love you so much. What you have raised is a very, very critical matter. For me, after realizing that the health sector, the system, the government health system is not working for my people. In my village mobilization meetings, I raised this to them. I said the person who is dying is your mother, is your wife, is your son, is your father, is your brother, is your sister. Yes, the government will lose a taxpayer, but another taxpayer will come in. So for you as a family, it may be a serious impact, like losing a mother in a home, because the mother did not get a drug that needed urgently to treat that illness.
To save a life.
So I have asked them, do not wait for government.
Honorable, that is a vote of no confidence.
No. It is not a vote of no confidence in the government, because this is after I have been in this thing for a very long period of time. Even in the circumstances where drugs are delivered, they get finished in the first week.
Yeah,
in a quarter.
He had already elaborated his man in the system. 3
months of running a quarter. The drugs are delivered in 1 week. They are finished. So even if you would say, even if the government reported that they have stocked, so if they are finished in 1 week, what happens in other weeks of the month, in other months of the quarter? Don't people fall sick? That's where I got a challenge. They said money is released quarterly. Even the drugs which are delivered, they are merely what we would call essential. And do not, for instance, if your child was bitten by a dog.
You have to go to Entebbe.
You would have to find a specific place where to get that drug. Those drugs are not in our. There are certain drugs which are critical for our. They are not in our hospitals. Then they are also the drugs are stocking out. They are getting over. There are people who are on lifetime drugs like
ARVs.
Yes, ARVs. Like people with diabetes, people with pressure, and there is stock out. So what happens? So what happens? I would think the law that we passed of health insurance,
National Health Insurance Scheme.
Government should sensitize the ordinary person and make a contribution such that health insurance providers can cover these ordinary people at least on a daily basis. Because if you have your card and you fall sick, you will run quickly to a health center that is in arrangement with the health insurance provider, and you will be treated many times at a very cheap cost, many times in other instances at a very high cost.
Honorable, you know that
ordinarily the individual
you know that
not afford.
you know that you Parliament passed that law, but the President rejected it.
Of course, I think the President, when we passed it, viewed from that perspective, he's given the report that actually the health system is working. They report to him the number of children who have been immunized. You can see we fought.
They have increased.
Polio. We have fought Ebola. We have fought COVID. So the health sector is vibrant, but the ordinary person on the ground is actually suffering the brunt.
So the President could have been ill-advised or
I want to think in that direction.
misguided.
He could have been given wrong information and took a decision not to sign. We are yet to receive. I would be glad to hear, because when you refuse to sign, you have to indicate to Parliament why you have not signed. I have not addressed my mind why he refused to sign that particular bill that we passed. But whether he likes it or not, for me, I am making another round to mobilize my people. To mobilize my people, starting most likely on Monday. It may take me. One of the things that I'm going to push to have an arrangement with my people is that local arrangement of medical health insurance.
Yeah, and there are examples, we can give you examples.
Yeah.
People to support you.
I think even in Ruwero, they have another
because I have seen a family will pay 20,000. 20,000. And that family will save almost even $1 million because of the 20,000 they paid. They paid. Those we need to study how Rwanda is doing it.
It has a national insurance
Ruwero
running.
Ruwero is doing it.
Oh yes.
There is another even in Bushenyi somewhere there is where they are doing it.
Oh yes, the people in the tea plantation.
Yes, they are doing it somewhere in Bushenyi. We need to study those good cases and start implementing them locally, such that the President can see that this thing can work for our people.
Yeah. These are locals who mobilize themselves, then create a pool of funds, then they liaise with medical facilities.
They take a decision.
Yeah, and
they arrange with health insurance providers, and they agree that they are going to be paying, I think around 20, is it 20 per month? Something like that. Something like 20 or 10,000 per month. That is like 120 in a year. Then they cover the family. They cover the family.
Whoever
they are given
gets
cards.
sick, he goes to health
They are given
cards.
cards. They are given cards and they go for treatment because the providers who are actually treating these people, who detain them in hospitals when they fail to pay the medical bills, are in those places. Only that now the provider needs an assurance that when I treat this person, I will be paid. That's all.
Honorable, as a member of parliament and a leader, I want to hear you, because our fellow panelists had already submitted on that matter. What do you think is the underlying cause or the causes of these talkouts? But Richard Baguma talked about greed. There are in fights within people in high places of government who are fighting for budgets and they won't allow.
I want to tell you, I will not differ from him because me, I love telling the truth. Go and investigate the people in National Medical Store, how much they earn. That's one. They earn too much money.
Yeah.
Second one, go and investigate. Generally, even when they are seeing us here, they are saying Tinka Simiri is really saying what is right. They are fierce rich. They are the richest in this country. How do they get rich? One, in most cases, they arrange and buy drugs which are about to expire. They arrange and a delivery, they buy it for 1 quarter, they buy it for a whole year. They keep buying the other one which they bought. And the government is giving them money. They know how to do, people in offices, they know how to do issues to do with the paper accountability. They are too smart.
That is treason. They kill citizens indirectly.
I mean, if they knew that, if they were concerned that the citizens are dying, they would not be doing those things. But I want to tell you, they are too rich. Somebody will go in, even in an office. I know a certain chief executive who has spent in that office like 25 years. Will not leave. He's too powerful.
But those have
and I want to tell you,
they are
the day Parliament will also stretch and say, I have had this group of Senyonyi, the committee of Senyonyi. Let them attempt to investigate that man.
Actually,
let them attempt to investigate National Medical Stores.
Okay, Peter, you can come in.
When this matter went to Parliament, what I actually thought they would have done was, one of the things is to ask for an audit of that place. I remember, I think Auditor General did an audit about either 5 or so years back. And one of the things they were actually trying to look at is the price at which NMS buys drugs, and then you compare it with the ordinary price. I am telling you, you would probably get into very shocking.
I want to assure you that place has stopped being a place for Ugandans to a place for individuals for making deals. I am sorry if I will hurt people, but that is how I talk. I am a member of Parliament for Ugandans. That place, there is that man who heads it. Is called Nakabale.
Kamabale. Dr. Kamabale. Dr. Kamabale.
Kamabale
is the head of the National Medical Stores, the ED.
Yes, you may give your principal, the chief executive of this country, good reports that you are delivering, but you have failed this country. All those people are dying because they lack drugs. The deals you make them. I want to use this program to say a very bad prayer because people are dying on your hands. I know in my constituency, the person who cannot afford even Panadol, but he doesn't care. He makes a lot of money from the deals. He makes a lot of money.
Richard.
And the president actually believes in him. I am told he has convinced everyone that he is the best chief executive in this country. If we have this stock out, he will come and say, you have not given me money. You have not given me money. But what has been your history? Has it been any better? Me, I have told you, even from the very beginning, they have been delivering drugs. After 1 week, they are finished.
Richard, in just 2 minutes, let's conclude on this matter. What do you expect now about the National Health Insurance Scheme, which we have agreed here that it could be lifesaver? I mean, it's a life-saving decision, if at all.
No, I can't remember the name of the organization in Luero that is doing health insurance. I also know a colleague who is in the leadership of the Tea Growers Association. I know the health insurance scheme. We have been considering, we were actually having a strategy meeting last night. We have an investment club of about 1,000 of us, and people invest about 10,000 per month, something like that. We've been considering to say, can you add 3,000 on top of the 10,000 you invest per month? And we have, because we have talked to insurance providers and see if we can have an insurance scheme where we collect money from these 1,000 people, whatever, and see if we can negotiate with insurance companies to provide. I think one of the things we need to do is, I tell you, it's a mwefeho system.
Exactly.
Yeah,
System of mwefeho. Now I am going to tell,
when I raised it, you said I am passing a vote of no confidence. The person who is dying is your family member, is your son, is your child, is your wife. Is your wife. I don't enjoy it, particularly the mothers who are going to deliver children dying, because they die, the children they are about to deliver, they die. Do you know the people who are dying?
That is the
doctors of tomorrow, the presidents of tomorrow, the engineers of tomorrow. We are ditching this country.
So one, I think we need to emphasize this path of ourselves.
Local mobilization.
Yes, local mobilization. I'm glad that the Honorable Tinka Simere is taking this.
Yeah.
If you had a number of MPs doing this, by the way, our president responds to political pressure. He will snap it and champion it.
Yeah.
Once he sees a couple of them, he will snap it and champion it, and people will start falling in place. But that's one. We need the National Health Insurance Scheme. We don't need any more benchmarking. We have done enough benchmarking. But for me, as always, Apple, I'll tell you, perhaps the greatest issue in this country is the impunity that is manifested in the looting, in the corruption, in the stealing, and the knowing that nothing will happen on Karachi. Knowing that nothing. The unknown Karachi approach, I think, is the greatest problem. So yes, Apollo, we need to do multiple things, but we must mobilize the population. We must keep mobilizing. I know our NGOs will be closed. I know roadblocks will be put in place, but if we push adequately, it will be taken on.
This is about life and death.
It's about death, actually.
Yeah, in just 2 minutes. Conclude on this issue.
I think we need to deal with bigger questions about the question of drugs. Dealing with that supply chain is important, because besides those challenges that I indicated earlier on, the supply chain also has a lot of leakages. Beyond NMS, everybody now in the system starts asking, what do I get from this whole system? So it is also one area that we need to fix.
Neil, I was very, very much concerned with the fact that one health center can have drugs expiring, but another neighboring health center is experiencing shortages of the same drugs. Why?
It happens, and it is a lot of times you go to a local government and you find the DHO slips in another district. It is not in touch with what is happening. So while one health facility is crying, we need this drug, the other one has a lot of it, and it can't redistribute.
But it is also I think the people getting out of universities and colleges going to work for government, and they need to understand that yes, they are in a position. When they are in that position, they should use common sense many times. Yes, look at the law, what the law provides, but have a way. For instance, the issue is talking about. I want to give you something which I went to one of the health centers in Ichibale. I'm mentioning it. Health center, the health center for at Chibale. We were in a committee of parliament. Then when we were moving, we found there, doctor. Me, I looked as we were going, I looked at on top of, there is a gutter.
Yeah.
On that gutter, there is a plant growing. That means a plant found water and some soil. I called the doctor. I said, doctor, how long do you think that plant has been there? More than 3 months. If this was your home, would you leave that plant there?
Nobody's caring.
Huh? Would you leave that plant there? He said, no, I would get a ladder and remove it. How long would it take you to remove? Less than a minute. So what has changed? Is this because it is not your home?
So people are in offices, but they don't care.
They do not care. This is where you will have drugs. You also know that the patients that you have cannot consume these drugs. Why don't you have a question in your mind that where else are they not having
and you
the drugs?
give it out and you save life.
Where else have they not had drugs? It could be in your neighborhood. Have that second sense. If you are left with 1 week and your estimation, you know the flow of your patients, they will not finish those drugs. They will not finish those drugs. Then you actually call the headquarters and say, I'm likely to remain with this number of drugs. Can we have where they don't have and we deliver them?
And Honorable, we spent a huge lot of money. I mean, banning and
destroying.
I don't know how we are going now to train our people, because that largely goes to the issue of management. The issue of management. Why should drugs expire in your hands as a medical doctor?
Okay. Thank you so much, viewers, and thank you so much, the panel in the studios. Special thanks to Kagadi Broadcasting Services, who are pushing these voices far further. And we also thank you, viewers, for being part of this discussion. And we invite you once again. You can use our WhatsApp number 0701 609906. Send in your messages and give your opinions on what you think about these persistent stockouts of medical supplies in this country. What can be done, and possibly what could be the solution. And the panel has agreed that we can again push for a national insurance scheme, but also we can mobilize ourselves in our localities to take up the same idea and create an insurance scheme within our localities. It has worked somewhere, so it is possible. I think, gentlemen, let's shift gears and look at the UCE results which were released this week. We discussed this topic around the education system and the gaps and challenges in the education sector last week. But I think after release of these results, I think Honorable Barnabas has something to say about what has happened. I mean, what has come out of his constituency. Are you celebrating actually the 8 in 8 this time? And I was concerned. One or two things I can talk about, possibly you'll raise your concerns also. But my concern is about the 15,756 students who failed. More than that is 15,700. They failed. And 1,035 results of students were withheld due to malpractices, cheating. That has been also a persistent issue. And finally, the Minister for Education, Honorable Janet Katam-Seven, during the official release of results, talked about, raised a concern about biology, how students this time performed dismally with generally science subjects. And we know that our government this time is pushing for sciences, and even the science teachers' remuneration was increased this time round. I think it's also a concern where pumping money in sciences, but sciences are still having a problem. And finally, about traditional schools, they are not doing well this time. It's a norm now. Private schools are taking over. I don't know if Barnabas, no, Richard will talk about what happened with Intali School. Bweranyanji girls, I saw, they only had 3, the best 3 scored 11. And Bweranyanji, those were the schools that were years of those days. And Baguma, I think you have the first shot. Make your first shot.
Yeah, and that's where I have a challenge. The challenge is I've been looking for a term, but it is this figuring, the figuring of skills that the school should be looking for 4 in primary school. I actually I was absolutely excited when I had the National Planning Authority say, please abolish this thing. That I go to school for 7 years.
Oh.
And my fate is determined within 2 days.
Yeah. Of the exam.
How many days is 7 years? 360 something multiplied by 7. And only 2 days determine my fate. I think that kind of system is sick. And so and then that somebody who gets distinction 2 has failed. Yeah, this is what it means. That somebody who has distinction 2 in every subject has 8 cannot get a place.
Yeah.
In senior one school. Somewhere.
Is a distinction student. So so this system for me is a sick system. So which means that the teachers will not teach the human beings to be all-round human beings. That you are not training us and our children to be individuals who will go out in society and provide solutions. It's like artificial intelligence. That's what I think. We are passing on
like machines.
Yes, artificial intelligence. So we are producing robots. It's a very robotic system. And I think that cannot deliver you meaningful development.
During the release of PROE, actually the executive secretary noted it, that there was lack of creativity and innovation. There is need to focus on creativity and innovation.
Yeah, but you see, and that's where I think the people who are in charge of things are being deceitful. If you do not reward creativity and innovation in your system of assessment and reward and award, there is no provision for rewarding and awarding creativity and innovation. So how can you promote it? It's just expecting to get water out of a stone.
You said the system is sick?
Absolutely. It is sick. It needs to be treated, and the treatment must be an overhaul. And the overhaul cannot start with the student.
And now we have more than 15,000 who failed. I don't know their fate now, those ones.
Yeah, I was telling somebody that sometimes I sit back and say, when we were in primary 7, who are those students who failed? Now that we are 50 years or so, where are they? Some of them we are the ones who have failed. If you compare us with
big
them.
businessmen.
Oh, absolutely. So we are the one. Their own schools. This is what is the most.
They actually own schools. Yeah.
Yes. So now who has failed? When you compare us, and so that is where I want to start from. That this rush 8 in 8. That is the that is the success. And so we are murdering.
Let me hear from Honorable Barnabas about the education system, especially after the release of UCE results.
I am glad that they changed the curriculum.
Lower secondary only. It is lower secondary.
But at least
to competent based.
Because now, if you look at me, and I check my senior 4
a certificate, I look at myself scoring 1 in chemistry. Then I ask myself, what did I study?
Exactly.
I studied the oxygen, I studied the water,
The periodic table.
ammonia gas, sulfuric acid. But I can't manufacture water. I can't manufacture oxygen.
People were
We
dying
need a
of oxygen in COVID.
Data you got. You get me? It is now the same thing that is still around us. We must dismantle this education system and adopt an education system that is going to help children to start learning how to live. Because a child studying for 7 years goes to secondary school for 4 years. Those are how many years at school?
Those are 11.
Plus the 3 years in nursery. And you can't create anything.
Even if you add on the 2 of the HSC and
Let's
even
copy some
university.
schools. There is a school in Namugongo. I'm not talking about Uganda Matters. The one which passed everyone in first grade. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about a certain humble school. It has Samaritan name. Samaritan something in Namugongo. Behind, if you want to go to access the school, you go. You use the road on the Anglican shrine. The Anglican Uganda Matters shrine. That road is where that school. I have there 2 children that I'm paying fees for. A child is going to P7, but he can repair everything at home.
Oh, that is good.
Including the broken pipes.
That's a plumber. He's now a plumber in making.
Even the TV he can open and do the soldering. He asked that we buy him a soldering machine. If we have such schools and we have such an output, you are seeing hope. You have energy to look for fees. You get me? For me, even if that child came with either 40, you know he has a future.
Yeah.
Because immediately we told him is going to, when he sits for these bogus exams, I call them bogus because they are useless in my own opinion. As this my namesake described them, 2 days to determine your 7 years. Why don't we describe them as bogus? We have told him you will go to there is an arcade where they repair phones. I have there a friend. I am going to ask him to go and work during the holidays to learn how to do those things properly. You see a boy who is, I didn't know that he can connect his laptop and get a bigger view on a TV. I saw him connecting wires, and on the internet, he is connecting his data here on the laptop and is seeing a bigger screen on a TV. He's running some programs which are conducted on the internet on his own. He has picked those things from school. A child in P7. Those are schools. That is the curriculum I would be interested in us following from primary up to secondary. Because me, I came from the village when I knew how to dig. How I wish they had taught me agriculture in an extensive manner. I would be more useful now to society. Or they see that Barnabas now, his interest is in chemistry. Because that one I showed it long time in senior 1. In senior 1, his interest is in biology. Then they focus me on those areas. On those areas. Now, we have a trend of where children cram to pass.
Yeah, true.
When will that end? Is this going to develop this country?
Is it the same issue we talked about with the healthcare system, that possibly our system I mean, the policymakers are either benefiting from the system or they
no,
do not.
even here, the
they do
policy
not-
makers, you can, because we are the victims. If your child can return to you and they can't do anything, you are a victim. You can't say you are a beneficiary. How much money, if you claim that you own a private jet, when you know that if you are not there, your son cannot add another private jet, you are useless. You are useless.
Okay.
You are too useless.
That is a big word.
Yes.
Honorable, let me hear from Peter. And Peter, okay, there are messages coming, but the time is running out. Peter, actually what they are talking about, somebody sent me a message and asked me, as we celebrate the 8 in 8s, the 4 in 4s, the 4s in 4, and again the next day we get Chinese to build our roads. We are employing external labor. Does it make sense to you? Are we really sensitive about these matters?
First, I want to share with you what a colleague told me. He was driving on one of the roads here. Then he looks out through the window, and the person, because he had seen a huge car, and the person who was driving that car was someone who had never gone beyond the last 4 in class. And he looked at the person and said, I wish I had been this foolish person in school. Now the person is driving one of the most powerful vehicles in this country. And you're like, does the system actually serve the purpose? Now, in terms of us continuously having people, you know that as a country, we have a challenge in terms of making the policies work. You're trying to emphasize, for example, science. But then, you know that most of our community schools do not even have access to power. If you go to my village and you look for secondary school and you're asking for, you want to establish a powerful laboratory, they have challenges. Power is not there. You have all these other things that you have shortages in. Those are areas that we should have invested the money in. First of all, because science will not just come out from nowhere. And that's why
we're talking about ICT, but internet is also a big challenge.
It's also very expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
So those are challenges. They are basics that we must first deal with before we say this is where we have gone. We must invest in the right things. And if you've noticed that if you look at how people have passed science in this country, and then you try to look at the geographical passing of that science, you will certainly notice a trend that there are regions that have actually that have done poorly in science, collectively as regions. If you do that, you will notice there are regional imbalances in terms of performance of science.
I think that could be due to the access to those facilities, better facilities.
And it is basically because we did not create a system that would create a balance across. But again, for me, what is worrying me in the results is the number of withheld results. And I think education needs to sort that out.
Yeah.
Who makes a decision that the results have been cheated? Who does that?
The scouts.
Is there opportunity for someone to be fairly heard?
Yeah.
Before you determine that this one is done.
He said an important word. Fairly.
Okay.
You can have many tribunals.
In terms of that whole process, is it fair?
Okay.
Before you eventually say this school's results are not all going to come out. Then now of these people who have failed, the 15,000 plus, what happens to them with a new curriculum? What are we going to do with this category? Are we sending all of them to do are they technical to technical
there is BTVET, there is TVET.
What is exactly going
There's DIT.
What's going to happen to them? And like he said, you must have a system that is able to harness the strength of a young person. But now if you start saying that, okay, because for you failed, you are now a candidate for TVET and the rest of the things, was that their interest?
Okay.
Are you sending them permanently home?
So
those are some of the things that
concerns
we need to
in just 2 minutes as we conclude, Richard. He talked about, he raised the issue now of the fate of these people who we think failed. There have been an effort to introduce those TVET, DIT, industrial, this Directorate of Industrial Training and all that. Are they really working? Are they receiving and training these people to become responsible citizens?
First of all, how many are they is the question. How many positions are there for technical training? You are talking about the people who are ungraded, the ones we call failing. No, I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about the ones who are graded, but because of our SICK system, they can't access secondary education. So they are just not 15,000. No. If you have 300 and something thousand,
there are even those who dropped out.
You have 100 plus whatever thousand, because you can't give a position in grade 3, you can't give a position in grade 4. So if you have a sputtering, because we have a sputtering of technical schools, really, it says. So when you talk about the foundation of science and there is no technical education, then I think that's a joke. Let me tell you what they call unfunded priorities. When in entire school we didn't have any technical thing, I went for a short stint to Mbara High School. There, technical drawing, technical something, those subjects were there. They were always the ones which were never funded. So even where elite or good secondary schools are attempting to do technical education, there is no funding for them. Mango Secondary School, I think, was one of those that kept insisting on integrating technical education for their children in the secondary. But if you have an allocation of money, where is there no allocation? It is the technical education. So it's being untruthful when we say we are promoting science, but we are not investing in technical education. Yeah. And secondly, for me, is the mental orientation. That you are not allowing me, Barnabas Tinkasimire, who is interested in science subjects, to go and do technical education. You are telling me that when I'm in technical education, the same as when I'm in teacher education, I am a failure.
Yeah, true.
How can me, who is going to be a teacher, you are only choosing?
When we tell these people, when we advise these people who we say have failed to go for technical studies, then we are sending a signal that
this is for failures.
That is for failures.
That's what we are saying. That's exactly what we are saying. So we are saying one thing here, we are saying the other. We talked about agriculture. For me, agriculture-related practices were used as a punishment.
In schools.
In schools. So, for me who grew up grazing, and I see grazing as perhaps one of the most important ways of earning money, sustainably.
Or took it up.
And then it is supposed to be a punishment
at school.
At school. What are you teaching me?
Okay, Honorable Barnabas, let's conclude in 2 minutes. Way forward now. People are jubilating, but it looks like not all is good.
Something that these good schools, where everyone is scampering to enter, should tell the world is, he alluded to it, that a child who gets 8 has gotten distinctions in primary and cannot join a good school like Uganda Matters, Bodo, Nagarama. Yes. They will say you do not have a place. Really, what are you trying to communicate to the world? If this is also going to stretch to those who have just finished exams, for me, I will invite a call to our parents. Focus on your children. You chose to produce them, focus on them. Make sure that this child, whether he gets 3rd grade, 2nd grade, make sure that he finds a good school and give him some good talk and encourage the child that you can make it.
Yeah, true.
I have a child, they brought that child to my school one time. We struggled to figure out even a combination for him. To a level that we even gave him a subject where he got a 9 because we were trying to figure past 7, past 8 and a 9. We talked to this boy. Vambe, he was the only child the mother was having. So we had to push. He did history, economics, and divinity. This boy got 19
at A levels.
At A level. Oh. And he qualified to join on government. 19.
So some of the people we think have failed have not.
The syndrome he was talking about, 2 days. We have had children, particularly younger girls, going in menstruation on an exam day. What do you expect such a child to deliver? She's confused. It is her first time to go in menstruation period. She's confused. Then this exam, sometimes they experience a lot of pain, they fall sick, and the 2 days of exams, she fails.
Okay, Honorable, your final shot as we go.
We can not fail to congratulate those who passed, but at the same time, we want to give hope to those who did not make it. He's only said, in my village, the people with the best houses, in my constituents, with the best houses, who are very rich with the money. There are people whom I think have not seen very many blackboards. There are certain things you can do better, concentrate on them, and you will make it in life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much, Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire, the Member of Parliament for Buyaga West. Thank you so much, Richard Baguma, a communication specialist and an advocate for proper nutrition. Thank you so much, Kenneth Ichelu, and he is the Programs Officer in charge of advocacy at Center of Health and Human Rights and Development, also known as CEHAD. We thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much, Kagadi Broadcasting Services. Thank you so much for these messages that are coming in. We didn't get time to read them out, but we'll be here next Saturday. My name is Simapolo. Good afternoon and a splendid week ahead.
All views and opinions expressed in this program do not reflect or state those of Salt Media and its management. These are views of the guests. Salt Television, Femunyo.